Welcome to the Wisdom Window on Strong Island Radio. The Wisdom Window is your portal to timeless knowledge and understanding. Join us each episode as Maddi and Marianne Franzese examine ancient and current wisdom traditions and apply these teachings to today's unique challenges. So let's get started and welcome your hosts, Maddi and Marianne.
Hello and welcome to Wisdom Window. This is Marianne Franzese. Today I'm actually without my co-host. Maddi is back in Baltimore with her family, actually doing an unveiling for her father who passed away last year, a year ago at this time in the heart of COVID. And like her family, like so many, were robbed of the rituals of grieving last year. And it certainly has highlighted for me the wisdom in ritual and ceremony around grieving, around giving us a format and a container to make sense of the very mysterious path that grieving takes us on. So my heart is out to Maddi and her family and to all families who somehow their process of grieving was interrupted, and also just that for all those who are grieving, a special heartfelt welcome today. And it's actually works out kind of interestingly because we have Amalia back, who is an artist, and part of her journey as an artist has taken her to some very profound grief work. Maddi did send me this quote, which is so appropriate for what we're talking about today, from a psychiatrist, Robert Lifton. And he says, "Art is a vehicle for transforming death and pain into forms that can enhance life that remains." I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So let me welcome back Amalia. Amalia, hello and welcome back to Wisdom Window. How are you today, and what are your opening thoughts?
Well, thank you. It's such an honor to be a part of the Wisdom Window. And I'm so glad you opened up our conversation today by honoring those who are grieving. I think we all know somebody or ourselves who are going through this time of very difficult grieving, because if you can't be with people, it's like we're kind of experiencing a new type of grief, where we have to really deal with it on our own, or we have to call people in order to grieve. And we don't get this, that embrace, that hug from our family and our friends, that we really need when we're grieving. We need that physical, emotional support from our communities. And so it gives me so much joy that Maddi gets to be with her family after a year.
Right? Yeah. It's really been a long wait, but still necessary, right? The need to come together lives on in that process.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one of the things we will be talking about your work with grief today, but before we go there, I've always, one of the points that we came to in the last show was this thinking about life as artists, that we're all artists. And that was such a beautiful reflection that you brought to us. And I do think that artists who devote their life to their art form know something that the rest of us don't necessarily get to have access to. So I'm just curious about your journey as an artist, when you even first knew you were an artist or decided to devote your life to art.
So I guess I'll begin when I was very young, and when I was a young child, I don't think no one knows as a child what their gift is. They kind of have to be shown what it is. they have to be given the support from their community and from their families and their friends. So it was from the support of my parents and my teachers and my classmates that I knew that I had this gift. And it was from these compliments and these encouragements that I continued to practice it on a daily basis, to the point where during, science and math class, I was constantly doodling, and it just didn't matter where I was constantly practicing my gift. And that really, it's so important that at a young age, we support children. If we see that spark and we see that gift that's within them, that we give them the support that they need. And I only realized that when I was older, because when you're young, you're kind of just going with the flow of things, and whatever mom and dad says, that's how it goes. So when I was given paints and canvas and sketchbooks, it just pursued my dreams. I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for that support. So
and I love that, Amalia, because what you're kind of reminding us is that when something comes natural to you, when it's your nature and you just do it because it's you don't necessarily know that it's a gift.
Yeah.
Because it comes sort of easy. It's just part. And sometimes maybe we just even need to stop and think about what comes easy for me. Like what we work so hard on what comes hard to us.
Yeah.
Like, this is hard for me. I have to make it get to be easy. Like, if we begin to focus on what's easy, what don't I have to put much thought into doing, it's always kind of goes with a natural flow, then that might in fact be a clue to our gift. And there may have been, and I agree, the support of community to say, this is your gift, right? How beautiful, go with it, can also sometimes just create this urgency in those of us who couldn't find our gift. It wasn't named necessarily as a talent.
Yes.
To feel like, I don't, where is my gift? I haven't found my gift. What is my gift? So maybe if we just sink into what comes naturally. I'm thinking about that now. What comes naturally to me?
Well, to push this even further, what came naturally as a child?
Yes, even better question.
Yeah, because when I look back on what I loved as a kid, it's such a key to my happiness as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wonder about what you're speaking about, Marianne. Maybe as a child you didn't have the resources to cook something, but you played in the dirt and you added spices of sand and, like little leaves from a flower. And that gift of being a cook or a chef was always within you. And you loved, creating these things in your imagination, but you just didn't have the resources, or someone didn't realize when they were watching you play, oh, maybe she has or he has the gift of being a chef.
So that's another clue in this process, right? What did you daydream about as a kid?
Yeah.
What was the favorite daydream? What was the favorite pretend story? And especially all of us as kids had time to play alone, right? We entertained ourselves, and there was always that imaginative story that you went back to that was so delicious. For me anyway, I loved my daydream story.
Yeah.
And what was the story? And within that could be a clue to the true nature.
Absolutely.
And so as you move through that, and it just, you started to recognize that this is part of your nature to be an artist. So no matter what you're going to do it as an artist.
Yes,
right?
Pretty much.
Right.
And that's how I decided to go to school for art, even though, a lot of people are like, why would you go to school for art? But I knew
it's a devotion to your craft.
Yep. It's a devotion and a dedication to the gift that I was given. I think it would.
And was it in art school that you came to your particular style or calling?
Yes, it was. And I went to Parsons School of Design, the new school in Manhattan. And it wasn't until my last year as a senior that all of a sudden nature and spirituality had become so ingrained in the art that I was doing. And it was, it just happened so naturally. I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my thesis, and all of a sudden nature started, it was like screaming at me, because if anyone who's ever lived in the city would know, like, there's not that much nature, but when you see it because there's so little of it.
Makes itself known.
Yeah, so that spider crawling up the wall, or that cockroach flying across the street, like all of a sudden the little bits of nature become so so present to the everyday life. And what happened was I started to realize there were weird synchronicities and coincidences between what was happening in nature and what was happening in my own life. So I'll give you a story, an example.
Oh, thank you. Of course.
Yeah. So one day I grew this relationship with the hawk. And right near where I live, there's this park called Tompkins Square Park, which I just adore.
I remember Tompkins Square from my NYU days.
Oh, don't you love it? Oh, it's
and the library right there.
Exactly.
Oh,
and the people that are there, there's just good people. So I would spend a lot of time there, and a hawk family grew. Like, I watched some of these hawks, take their first steps in the nest. And it was just this beautiful relationship. And I realized that if I sat there and I watched the hawk, that it would guide me in my own struggles or things that I had questions about in my own life. So one day I was sitting in the park and I saw the hawk had caught a pigeon, and it was ripping the feathers out. I mean, there were just feathers falling from the sky. And I just had this feeling of sorrow and worry come over me. And I just knew in my heart, oh, something not good is going to happen here. And I remember closing my eyes and praying and saying, please don't let me suffer too much from what is going to happen. And I opened my eyes, and the person that I was dating at the time was walking towards me. I couldn't believe it. And he sat down next to me and he said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to end things between us.
Your feathers were ripped out.
But that to me, like, even though my heart was broken, I was prepared for it because of being aware and observant of the things that was happening around me. I was able, in those few seconds, in that minute or two, I was able to prepare just a little bit for the sorrow I was about to feel.
And like almost the profound, like little bit of excitement. There is a oneness that we can achieve with nature. And it will be a guide.
Yeah.
It will. Like, it was a preparation. It was part of the natural order. Like, this is as painful as it is to witness the death of the pigeon. It is also part of something natural. And what actually came to you was part of a natural process, this ending.
Yeah.
So within that wholeness, there and suffering, there is comfort.
Yeah.
Comfort.
There's comfort because I know that I have some support.
Yes. Yes.
I know that no matter what happens, that nature is somehow going to help me or guide me or get me through the good and the bad.
So how do you then take that experience and use it to influence your art?
So for my thesis, I used all of those signs that I was receiving. And because I felt so one with
Mm.
these creatures and these signs and these parts of the universe, that I made masks, these creatures, so that I could literally become these animals. And I did a mask on the moon and the sun, and it was such a beautiful experience, to really transform into the things that were guiding me, because I became so one with them. It felt like almost like this reliance on these synchronicities became my faith and my religion. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to create these gods, these masks and these costumes, and become one of them.
Right? And it really sounds like the beginning of shamanistic type of work, which
Yes.
is that putting on the mask of the ally, of the nature ally that can help transport you and transcend. And I'm a drama therapist, and it's very interesting because that process of the mask making allows you to reverse roles and embody in a way that also creates some safety, because you can remove the mask,
Yes.
right? And put it back on. So it's a clarity of I am and I'm not, right? And
Yes.
so that is quite a beautiful process. And then you've carried that forward since then. That
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, when I came out of school, I was home, and my mother and I, actually, it was my mother, she started to create this nature mandala outside.
Mm.
And this is where, like, the next part of my journey began. And we did it together. I said, "What are you doing? You know, can I help?" And we just started to gather things around the backyard, like acorns and pine cones, and we made this beautiful mandala on the ground. And it just truly inspired me, because I felt this new connection with Mother Earth. It was, I was touching it, I was getting my hands dirty, and then you were kind of honoring her in a way like, this is for you. We're not pasting these things down on a piece of paper and framing it on the wall. This type of art you do, and you say thank you, and then you walk away.
You let it go.
Yes. And that's where this grieving process came in,
Mm.
of where the mandalas can really help, with grieving death and loss.
So what is your process like? If someone loses someone, you work with them to create a mandala? Like how do you go about it?
So I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a person that passed away. I mean, maybe it's losing a job, or losing a pet, or losing your sense of self, even losing a part of yourself, that you're ready to let go of. And basically what you do is, either you can buy materials at the store, just as long as they're natural materials. Or what I love to do is go around the yard, or go in a park or the beach, and start to pick up objects. And you kind of collect these special little materials in a tote bag or something. And then you find a special place to do the mandala. And in my past experiences, I find that if it is someone that passed away, that it's very helpful to do it on the grave site, or to do it in a location that that person or that pet enjoyed spending time. So a park, or wherever they enjoyed going. And the process, you get down to the ground, you get on your knees, you get your hands dirty, and it doesn't have to be a circle. They tend to look like a circle most of the time, like radiance coming out from a center spot. And you place down flower petals and sticks, anything that you can find in nature. to honor the person that has passed away, but also to honor Mother Earth, who's taking care of the people and the beings that have left us. Right? We're leaving these gifts of nature saying, thank you for giving us this beautiful relationship with this person. And we hope that you can carry them on to the next part of their spiritual journey. And I think, during the process, we sing, we play music, we say prayers, we even can bring up things that we regret. I'm sorry I didn't spend enough time with you. I'm sorry I didn't call you enough. Or, that's also a time to let out the things that you might regret from that relationship that you've lost. And again, you're able, when you're done and you've said everything you need to say to that person that you've lost, you can let it go. Again, you're not taping these things to a piece of paper, you're creating it and you're leaving it there.
And letting it go naturally. So it may stay there for a while, it may get blown away, or birds may eat parts of it. You're allowing a natural process of letting go happen. And
you're starting the process of letting go of that person as well. And
really
being
letting
open.
go of that earthly connection to that person so that you can begin the relationship on a more spiritual level, right? On a different kind. That sounds so beautiful and so doable at any time in the process of grieving, right? If you can do it in the beginning, you could do it every year, you can do it 10 years. And I also love that, like you've drawn our attention to, grief is not just when someone dies. We can die onto ourselves. We die onto relationships. There's loss in many different ways. And then you also do another kind of process, which is landscape for grief, right? Could you tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. I started a series called Death and Dying Landscapes. So for people that aren't open to doing like the nature mandala, like in a communal setting, a lot of people, they either need help moving on into the spirit world, or people may need help from moving on from a loss. And so I started this series when my great aunt, Mildred, was starting to show signs that she was passing away. And she passed away about 6 months ago. Not from COVID, thankfully, just of old age. She was 98 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, lived a nice long life. And I remember sitting down with her and I asked her, "Are you afraid of death?" And she said, "No." And I said, "What do you think happens when you die?" And she said, "I think it's just darkness and it's nothingness." And I knew she always had this faith that she would become one with her family again and the friends that she missed. But it made me very sad that I think a lot of people, especially if they don't have any faith or a religion to practice, that they don't let their imaginations go and imagine something beautiful that happens when death occurs. And I was just very sad when I heard that. And so I thought, what kind of image can I create to help her move on peacefully without fear? Because I don't know, that seems very cold and scary to me, that everything's just dark and lonely, right? So what I did was I went back to a memory of hers when she lived in this house, and behind the house there was a daffodil farm. And my father and my great aunt, they would always talk about this daffodil farm. And in my head, I always just imagined this huge field of daffodils. And even though it was probably not like that at all, in
How
my
glorious, a field, a whole farm full of these beautiful little yellow cuties.
yeah. So I thought, this is the image I want to create for her. So I did this watercolor painting of a field of daffodils, and there's a pathway going through the center of the field. And when I gave it to her, I said, this is the image I want to give you. Like, if you feel like you're ready to move on, this is heaven. I wanted to create an image of heaven for her. A place that is welcoming, that connects with her childhood, that connects with her family, so that that death was welcoming and not this cold place. And she let me hang it up on the wall next to her, which was, yeah. And it was a gift for me to give to her, just that one image.
Such a beautiful concept, because it, number one, is sort of a transitional object. So with children, when they first, start separating from the oneness of mother, right? Mm-hmm. From the oneness of their mother, and start realizing themselves as separate, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And so there's usually a transitional object, like a teddy bear or a blankie, that they cling onto, that helps them manage that discomfort of, I don't know, it's unknown. And so you are actually creating in that portrait of the daffodils the transitional object from the motherland, from the Mother Earth, from our place on Earth here, to this afterworld. And it is darkness because it's unknown, right? None of us know until we get there. Mm-hmm. Can the way out be connected to some place in nature that was of comfort to you? Mm-hmm. And if I think about my life, I think that the most wondrous of experiences have always been connected to natural places.
Yeah.
The most awe-inspiring. So to go back and hold that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about my childhood, like, oh, what would be that childhood place? And in my front yard in childhood, there was this tree that had the most beautiful big leaves on it. I don't know what kind of tree it was, but the leaves would get covered with ladybugs. So as a little one, I would stand under there and see this beautiful green leaf with all these red ladybugs. I'm like, it would be the ladybug tree. It would be a path lined with ladybug trees that would just delight me, because it was my first experience of delight and delight, like moving towards the light, a landscape of the light. And so to have that is such a beautiful full circle. I think we just made a mandala in our talk, Amalia.
I think we did.
Start with that, like the beauty of the imagination of the child, and now we're kind of coming to a close with the beauty of the first experience with earthly beauty to take with us as we leave this earth.
Yes.
Oh, this work is precious and truly, like, I just, wow. And I feel like has emerged from you very organically, given your path as an artist. And that's what I was trying to get at it in the beginning, when I was saying that artists have a way of following the signs.
Yes.
Following the flows, making something out of it. And it it has a deep level of trust in something bigger.
Absolutely. And artists have this incredible ability of being very observant, like we have to be. And through that observance, we start to see those signs. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you're looking too much into that. Like, whoa, like that was just an ant on your shoulder. Like that had,
Just an ant.
and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like my uncle's trying to say hi to me or something, like I look very much into it, but I think it's a key. I think it really is, it's such a key to be observant. If you need guidance or you feel lost in the world, just be like extra observant in your life. And if you want to become more observant, I would say that art is such a great way of becoming a little bit more focused.
And so, the other thing I've noticed about artists, back in my days when I was in the city, but it's also as a writer too, I do this. I would often see artists like take out their sketchbook on the train, or like there was always a jotting down of these observations.
Yep.
That creates a sort of dedicated practice to just take it in, just jot it down. I don't know where it's leading, but I'm noting it. I'm noting it in a form that can hold it, right? Yeah. Express it. So the development of the eye. And, your work with children, I do want to just close with this because we had the honor of having you at Spark Elementary as our early childhood teacher. And it was because of your devotion to nature and nature art. And one of the things that you really taught them was that nature does speak.
Yes.
And to be able, the way it will speak to you is very individual. So it may come through your eyes. I remember this lesson where you say, if you might see a little sparkle on the ground and that's what calls you, or it may come through your ears, you'll hear a bird singing, or it may come through your nose, you'll smell a certain thing, or it may come through your mouth, you're going to want to eat the dirt. It will come to you through your senses. And just inspiring that kind of true wisdom that we just have to become attuned to which of our senses is the magnifier, is a magnet for what is in our world, and then just to honor it and continue looking and listening and smelling and tasting and touching, or whichever it is, right?
All those senses, yeah.
So as we close this show, we started with our dear Maddi in ceremony and ritual of grief. And Amalia, you just gave us some beautiful ways. If any of our listeners out there are grieving, go out into nature. You can start your own mandala. You can start your own nature altar. But the beauty is that it's not something that we're trying to own.
Yeah.
It's not a piece of art we own. It's a piece of art we offer. And if any of you would like the assistance, guidance of Amalia in the process, because to do it with a guide is a whole other level of experience and depth and ability to really let go, please contact her for her either mandala work or portraits. Amalia, just remind us how everyone can contact you.
So you can either, everything that I have, like social media and my website, is my name. So if you type in Amalia Drews into Google, you will most likely be able to find me somewhere.
That's great.
Or amaliadrews@gmail.com. You can email me at any time. It would give me so much joy to offer these services of grief during a time where, again, like we said at the beginning, we're coming full circle, that we don't have this opportunity to come together as a community to grieve together. And I think if we could do it through nature and art, that we can heal our hearts.
So beautifully said, Amalia. Thank you so much for joining us. You are welcome back anytime. To all our listeners, we will be back next week with Wisdom Window. You can see us on the Women's Oneness Project, Strong Island Radio. Thank you to our producer, Bobby. And until next time, enjoy this beautiful spring awakening in any way you can. Okay, take care and be well.
Thanks so much.